You're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. Sorry about that. I guess our sound is on. My mic is on, right? WLTH Radio, Sound Off with E.V.E. And of course, as they say, catch me live in the evening drive at 5. That sounds good, doesn't it, Omar? Sounds like I can rhyme, don't I? Okay, I don't have any announcements in here. But for those of you that have small businesses or own your own business, the Reality Store, it's coming up Friday, March 28th. See, we as small business people or community leaders like to volunteer, or some, should I say, like to volunteer and take place in helping out in teaching the 8th graders. This is the Reality Store taking place at Pierce Middle School. So I want to just give out shout out to the committee for the that's going to be dealing with the project, the education committee, and that's the Gary Chambers not the Economic Business Development, but the Education Committee. They're going to be out there doing some great things for the 8th graders. Certainly great to do that. You're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E. I believe I have a caller. Go ahead, caller. You're here on Sound Off with E.V.E.
Well, hey there, E.V.E.
Well, hey there, Vic.
How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful and unstoppable and unbreakable. How about you?
Well, that's right. That's how it is. We just keep on ticking, you know?
That's right. We have to. There's no other better way to do it but to keep on ticking.
That's right, you know. Hey, I just wanted, just kind of a curious question. I've asked this probably for a number of years, and I've never got a response for it. But first, I'd like to, put this out to you. You know, our country is at serious risk because we buy more than we sell. And as a country, as a nation, we buy more than we produce. Production's done by manufacturing. Okay?
Do you know that you missed the day that I was talking about manufacturing? Where were you at, Vic?
I don't know. I could have been to the hospital. I know. Who knows? I could have been anywhere.
You were not on with me
Mars.
here.
My wife could have sent me to Mars or something, you know?
Okay.
But no, I missed it, and I'm sorry I did. But there's several there's several national think tanks on manufacturing. Mm-hmm. Now I've been listening to this for like all the years I've been here listening to WLTH, and the only manufacturer that's ever come on the radio station is people from the steel mill. And that's not what we're talking about. It's the 21st century, and things like robotics and robotics, mechanical engineering. That's the kind of stuff that we really need to produce here for manufacturing. Yet we have no real discussion about how to invite these manufacturers here. Somehow we've got the RDA money. And somehow these retailers are going to want to plant themselves around here, but somehow manufacturers won't. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make any sense at all to kind of a halfway worldly sort of person.
Here,
so
listen
if
to this.
You know that the country's in massive debt because we're not producing anything, and manufacturing is a thing that you need to talk about to produce, but yet we'll never talk about it.
Listen to this, Vic. See, what do you think about this article? Making manufacturing cool. Parents should inform their children that modern manufacturing is the path to a great future. What do you think about that statement?
Well, that's an obvious. Yes, ma'am. That's
you agree, right?
Obvious. That's straight up.
So,
but we don't talk about. I mean, you and I might say something about it. But if you talk about it in a bigger picture, well, of course, everybody says, well, we don't do that here anymore. And whenever I hear them say that, I think they're really dumb.
Well, it's not, I don't think they should say we don't do that here anymore. I just think we just don't have the right people to come in and do that just yet. We have the land. We have the dirt where we can do that, But they shouldn't say we don't do that here anymore, because you never know. Someone may come out here and actually start building something. You just never know, Vic.
Well, of course, but again, the idea is, look, if you have an area that has been traditionally, I mean, Gary, the whole region was built on manufacturing. Yet that's the one thing that the people in charge of the region will even mention. They won't even entertain the conversation for more than 30 seconds. And then pretend sort of like, well, yeah, let's move on. We're service people. We want to start our own business.
Well,
We want to be a small business guy.
Well, I'm a small business person, but not everybody has the know-how or the ability or the knowledge, and especially some don't want to inquire to have more knowledge about it in doing so. But that should be an option. But let me read this for you. Let's just talk about that for a few minutes, since you're very adamant about manufacturing, and I feel your passion for it as well. They're asking the parents to talk to their children about this, right? This is an article that I'm reading pertaining to manufacturing, and that's making manufacturing cool, okay? It says, we need your help because manufacturing has an image problem. While 70% of Americans view it as the most important industry for a strong economy and national defense, only 30% of parents encourage their children to pursue a manufacturing career. That may be because the word manufacturing still conjures up in some minds the image of an untidy factory floor full of dirty, dangerous, and repetitive jobs. Yet, that image is grossly outdated. In truth, many manufacturing facilities in the United States today are cleaner than most offices or doctor's office waiting rooms. They're gleaming showrooms of the latest technologies, and they are staffed by highly skilled and well-educated professionals producing the most exciting breakthroughs of our time, such as advanced in robotics, automation, and 3D printing. There's also a huge and growing demand by the U.S. manufacturers for skilled production workers, engineers, and technicians. The resurgence in U.S. manufacturing since 2010 has already led to more than 600,000 additional jobs. The National Association of Manufacturers estimates that more than two-thirds of their sector's current skilled workforce will have retired by 2030. So these demands translate into higher pay for manufacturing workers. Over the last decade, new hires in manufacturing earn an average of 38% more than new hires in non-manufacturing industries. And over a career, a manufacturing worker earns 17% more in wages and benefits than his or her counterpart in other sectors, according to the U.S. Commerce Department data. Together, these trends indicate a major opportunity for the next generation of workers who pick this exciting field. We're doing our part to support good jobs in the industry, which is crucial to U.S. competitiveness. Government, industry, and academia are joining forces like never before to ensure that U.S. manufacturing continues to grow so that your child's career prospects are secured decades from now. So from what I just read, that could be one of the issues at hand, Vic, that the idea of thinking manufacturing, the word, just like I mentioned in the example, they're looking at it wrong. They're not opening their minds to it, because we have 3D printing at the Hammond Innovation Center.
I started talking about that about 2 years ago, and even as I tried to describe what it was, people don't want to hear about it.
Because maybe
when I talk about manufacturing, people say, "Hey, man, I don't want to hear about that stuff."
Well, they're not open. So, they're not open-minded.
I'm sorry.
They're not open-minded, Vic.
Well, the thing, first of all, the thing is, if you have something that's not going on, first you have to raise the consensus that that's an issue. Then you have to, the people who are influential, if they work for the Chamber of Commerce, guess what they're not going to recommend?
What?
Manufacturing.
Right, but
so if you know that the RDA money is essentially controlled by bankers, retired, doesn't matter, by bankers, insurance guys, and the energy people. And there is a Chamber of Commerce. Now, those folks absolutely will not encourage manufacturing. We could talk about it, and that's what I'm doing. I would hope it would raise somebody's hair.
Well,
But I guess
you
it
know who
doesn't
we
do
need to
much of
push?
that.
Hey, Vic, you know who we need to push for manufacturing to come here? Did you hear the clue when it says parents should inform their children that modern manufacturing is a path to a great future?
Well, of course that's true. Anybody that wouldn't understand that is somebody that's never worked. Actually,
So,
what I mean by work, they've never produced anything more than pushing papers.
well,
And that's a great job too.
true.
But guess it's like entertainment and sports. Those are great jobs when you got them. But they still don't produce anything more than recreation. Okay, recreation's important. But what's more important is producing goods you can sell around the world or in your own country.
All right.
One
Well,
of the things.
hey, Vic.
One of the things that. Yeah.
Hey, Vic, how about you and I go to the Innovation Center and talk to the youth because they're the ones that are going to be pushing your thought. Okay.
Well,
It
it's
says
the parents that have to.
well,
It's the
yeah, right.
parents
Well,
that have
the
to do
parents,
that.
we have to educate the parents and let them know that that's important. And it says, for example, what I'm reading here is you can help by getting young people excited about science, technology, engineering, and math as early as possible. Good writing and design are important too. So offering children opportunities to participate in everything from science fairs to robotics competition can help inspire the innovator within each of them. So you go to the Innovation Center, they have their 3D printer. I saw what it can do, the after product, the product that it did, but I'm going to go next week and actually see it for myself of what this 3D printer can do because that is the new way. That's the new technology. And so we need to reach out to our youth, Vic. We have the land here. See, I keep telling
Right.
people, we have the land here. We have the buildings, empty buildings. We just need to have the willing and able bodies because the money will follow once you have those motivated, inspired people.
It's a funny thing. I hear this. I hear this a lot too. The people aren't around that'll do this.
Well,
it's like
we don't know that.
I remember. No, yeah. Look, I remember when they built. I moved out in Griffith in '55 from East Chicago, from the harbor. And Griffith back then was a very small bodunk town, small farm town. And when they put Strachan Tills out there, people would probably say, well, who's going to want to shop out there? Got to drive way out there to go shopping. That grocery store was packed from the first week it was open until now. And that's been a place was put out in the middle of nowhere. And so to try to say that, well, the people aren't here or the opportunities aren't here, we have the property, we have the water, we have the transportation. I mean, this is an industrialized area.
So,
and to actually avoid that for all these years, to me, why?
It's called, Vic, I don't want to work. I don't want to start something. I'm just going to deal with what we have. So if this is true, if there's also a huge and growing demand by U.S. manufacturers for skilled production workers, engineers, and technicians, then where are we missing here? Like this says, the resurgence in the U.S. manufacturing since 2010 has already led to more than 600,000 additional jobs.
The planners, your planners,
come on, Vic,
the
let's
planners are the ones that invite people in.
Right. Okay, Vic.
The planners are people who are called the Chamber of Commerce.
Come on, Vic, let's go.
Yeah.
So it says
what I'm trying to get, they should have a fire lit under their feet.
The bottom line.
Because bottom line, they're anti-labor. They are anti-labor, and that's what the whole thing is about. It's like when I hear this thing, well, oh my gosh, I've heard so many silly things over the years, like the same with immigration. The reason why there's such a huge glut of undocumented people here, because the conservatives want it to be that way. Because guess what? All those workers have no equality. They can't arbitrate, so they're basically slaves to whoever they work for. Right? If they were actually documented workers, their bosses could not treat them wrong. And they would demand higher wages. But because they're undocumented, they can't demand anything but please don't turn me in.
Right.
Now that was along with eliminating unions. And by the way, only the people from the South don't like unions predominantly. The people that grew up here working in industry, they know how vital unions are. But yet, right here in this very spot, we have people actually encouraging right to work legislation. So right here.
Well, you know how it all started with the right to work. People were actually misunderstanding that phrase, the right to work, when it actually meant the opposite.
Well, that's been around for like 30 years now. Those kind of rules, and the whole thing, the whole purpose, intention of it is to eliminate the rights of workers to arbitrate for fair conditions, and that's really what this is all about. Why do you think we would, export 75% of our manufacturing jobs when people know it's absolutely necessary for our very life?
Well, yeah, that's cheap labor. You know how that goes. But
anyway. But guess what? So what it did is undermine the whole system and allowed poverty to become huge again. And that was done for what purpose? It was done for a purpose. It wasn't just random, itsy-kitsy, because there's always been cheap labor all over the world.
True that.
But the thing is, America came first. If you're American, your home comes first. And so China doesn't come first, Mexico doesn't come first, Romania doesn't come first, America comes first. And so we're shipping out, we've been offshoring these jobs so people could send their profits to the stock market.
Well,
rather than paying labor.
Did you hear one of my callers called yesterday and said that Ford is coming back to the U.S.?
Florida is?
Ford?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's leaving Mexico.
Ford, I know a couple guys that work at Ford. They make real good money.
Well, they're coming back out here, so that's a good thing. But, Vic, thank you for weighing in on this. And just reading the bottom line is that whether they choose vocational training programs with national recognized credentials for machinists or welders or advanced degrees in fields like mechanical engineering, acquiring manufacturing-ready skills can make your child a hot prospect on the job market. So we have to educate the parents, and they're the ones that will be pushing that. All right, Vic?
Yeah, hey, one more thing. You know what they call kids here that get into science?
What?
Nerds.
That's what Omar just said, nerds. But you know what?
It is up to us.
Hey, Vic, it is up to us to disable that label. We should not care about what people call anyone that's smarter than they are.
No, I understand. It's kind of like, bigotry starts from the smallest places. It's based on ignorance.
A lot of it. And as this law says, ignorance not, an excuse.
What's that? Give me that one again about the law.
It's not an excuse. Ignorance.
Oh, ignorance is no excuse.
Exactly.
Huh?
Well, thanks,
Well,
Vic.
Okay, thanks, Eve. Have
Appreciate
a great day.
it. We can talk again. I know that Vic and I can talk for hours because I have seen him in person, and I know that he has stood there and just talked for hours. I appreciate your comments and your opinions and your thoughts, Vic. I really do. And, we need something here. We need jobs, but we need to get the government to clean their heads, lack of a better term. We need the government to put their compassion in their heart in the right place. And that's with our youth, just like I'm reading about this. They're asking the parents to talk to their children, to inform them about modern manufacturing. It's the way to the path to a great future. That 3D printing, wow. I actually am going to go a little farther into asking Sue Anderson from the Hammond Innovation Center, because I believe they are the only ones that have actually publicly been or have done something with the 3D printer out here in this area. So I would go a little farther than just to inviting her and Mark to come here and talk about the process of the innovation, of how did they get the innovator going, the incubators and all that. Thank you, Omar. But more than anything, for those that were streaming live, thank you for joining me here, and follow me on Twitter as well. I would have them, if possible, bring the 3D printer here to the studio and have it viewed, the process. The kids that are in this class are taking advantage of technology. That's the new way of doing things. I was told that you could actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Mars, build a home a vehicle.
You can basically build anything.
Exactly. So that's the new way. But we need people, kids, students, to learn that, to work the technology in their favor, in the community's favor, to build jobs. So, Vic, you're on point when it comes to manufacturing, but people look, people in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe 60 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old, are not going to understand the new manufacturing. They're going to think the old manufacturing way, the dirty, dingy type of job, which we wouldn't want our youth to have anymore. I believe maybe that's their mindset about it. So if we show them the way, then we'll have manufacturing. It's going to take computation. It's going to take technology. It's going to take computers. It's going to take knowledge. It's going to take these kids to go to college to learn all that. So that is one thing to do with that, with the technology. And just so you know, thousands of harassment and discrimination charges were filed in Indiana, and it's increasing. The EEOC recently released its 2013 report on harassment and discrimination in the workplace and found that Indiana had 3,067 harassment and discrimination charges in 2013, which is up 1% from 2012. Wonder why that is. What was the purpose of the report? Is this an ongoing thing? Well, the purpose of the EEOC Enforcement and Litigation Report is to give a comprehensive look at the state of harassment and discrimination in workplaces across each state and the country. The report is released every January, and it sums up the results from the previous year. So if they're up 1%, some may argue the amount is low, but 1% of what? What kind of effect could 1% have in Indiana? Doesn't matter how much harassment and discrimination is going up, period. So what matters and what companies need to take notice is the fact that it's going on and that it's going up. This is a sign that Indiana companies need to reevaluate their employee training programs and make some changes to allow them to further install ethical behavior in their employees. I've been in several cases, very complex, with EEOC attorneys as an interpreter. They're lengthy, they're long. As a matter of fact, I have an all-day trial coming up pertaining to sexual harassment in the city. So that's going to be an all-day trial. From, oh, you look nice with that beautiful short skirt, to want to go out tonight. That is harassment. People have to be very careful with what you say to people, men or women. Lawsuit, the last one I was dealing with, the depositions, was a lawsuit. It was a man suing employees for sexual harassment. You gotta be kidding me. Touching behinds, touching each other, horseplaying, playing around doesn't mean that you're gay or lesbian. No, it's just horseplaying, period. But guess what? When the person strikes that light bulb and says, I got a plan. I plan on walking out, going out, moving south. And they would keep touching my butt, but he doesn't realize that he does realize this. He's also been doing it. So here I go. I get hired. Why? Because there's 6 employees that don't speak the language, and we have to depose every one of them over sexual harassment. So 1%, one is too many. Employers need to really train their employees, change that manual like I just read. And the reason why I was saying that is because I get my information on a daily basis of what goes on in Indiana. And I'm going to just tell you what it says. What were the reasons, some of the reasons why harassment and discrimination increased in 2013? Harassment and discrimination continues to rise in the workplace because of the lack of proper training. Lack of proper training companies provide employees. Too often, companies just hand employees a 200-page of code of conduct and do little or nothing, no other training. Employees most likely aren't going to read their company manual or code of conduct cover to cover. So that means employees need to provide supplemental training that engages and interactive. If not, the employees will remain oblivious to what their company's harassment and discrimination policy even is. In fact, a recent study done by aware.org found that 2/3 of employees aren't aware of their company's harassment and discrimination policy. And I can unequivocally tell you that that's a fact. Attorneys ask those questions. Were you given any training? Did you watch a video where it said that this was not allowed or it was inappropriate? Did you read the handbook policy on the code of conduct? Do you even know what it is? Did you understand it? So that's very important that people need to do that. It's going to cost you millions of dollars if it's a huge lawsuit. So as an employee, you need to read the code of conduct book when it's given to you. And employers, you need to make sure you go that extra step to teach and train your employees. One thing that I've been hired to do is to go and do the workshops or trainings of sexual harassment in the language that they'll understand. We'll have 2 sections of groups in the morning and in the evening, and this is in Illinois at a hotel for their hotel employees. They rather spend a couple of $1,000s than to have a sexual harassment lawsuit or discrimination. So we need to train each other. We need to teach each other. And that goes along with cultural awareness, cultural acceptance, and cultural differences. You're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. Hope you guys are tuning in Monday through Friday. This is Free for All Friday, so please feel free to call at 219-885-1371. That's 219-885-1371. It is Friday, guys, so I'm ready to listen to a little música. And something that I had found out, I found it on Facebook, the song, it kind of captivated my attention because I love this song by Beyonce. I love this song. I love the message. And we're going to talk about education after this, but it's 32 minutes after the hour. Going to play the Nun. Yes, you guys heard a nun. So I want you guys to hear this. I love this song. So it's Free for All Friday. Welcome to Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. This is the Region's Choice, AM 1370. So don't touch that dial.
I just want to close. Together for the days and night. I don't worry 'cause everything gonna be alright. People keep talking, it's time, but all I know is everything gonna be alright. Get it away on what I'm feeling.
I just said, and when I saw the video and I was listening to this wonderful angelic voice, I was like, well, she is a woman. She just chose to become a nun. And that was from The Voice. And that was, what country was that again?
Italy.
In Italy. So that was an awesome voice. You're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. It's 35 minutes after the hour. And speaking of Ford, we were talking about Ford. There's some money that's being given away for education. But back to the discrimination and harassment. You can call and sound off here at 219-885-1371. As I was telling you, we need to teach the employees, but employers spend a little bit of money So it won't cost you in the end when you have a lawsuit, when you're being sued and your employees are being sued. Okay. What can people go if they feel as they've been harassed or discriminated against? I'm sure there's a lot of you that have been feeling this way. The procedure on how to handle a harassment or discrimination incident varies by company as it depends on each company's own procedure. However, some basic steps apply. If possible, you should first and foremost tell your supervisor about your concerns. Your supervisor cannot address the problem if they don't know about it. If the supervisor is the person whose behavior is concerning, then talk with the next person of seniority. The next person you can talk with is the Human Resources Department. They're there to help you deal with issues that affect your work, especially when you feel that you cannot talk with your manager or supervisor about them. And the Human Resources Department can give you advice about the correct process to follow and can direct you to other venues of support, such as the Employment Assistance Program. So there's ways, and there's also the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, the Equal Opportunity Commission. You can go to them, file a report, file a complaint. You just never know. But it's all about knowledge. It's all about educating your employees. And employers, don't be stuck on stupid and wait until something happens, and then it's going to cost you way more than what you could have paid to educate and to teach your employees. So anyway, we're talking about education. What's going on in Gary? Anybody know what's going on in Gary or not? Do you guys think Mayor is going to take over city, school city of Gary? Rahm Emanuel has in Chicago. What do we feel about that? Should a mayor be the one in charge of school corporation? I'd like to hear what you guys feel about that. I'm sure that it's creating havoc. I'm sure there's a lot more than what they're saying. I'm hoping that they schedule an open forum, a public meeting, to bring the parents and the students and everybody in awareness of what really is going on. Speaking of what's going on, something's really going on today on Broadway. We got cops from all different cities on Broadway. From what cities besides Gary? Griffith,
Gary,
Portage, Maryville. State cops also. What is going on in GI? Is everybody going crazy?
I think they might be looking for someone because I saw them pull over somebody, and I went to go take a look or whatever, and I stood there for a little while, and
that cop was not from here.
No, that was a Griffith cop.
Yeah.
And from what I saw, all it was they stopped the person, looked up his
they're on a hunt,
his records, and
sheriff's cop.
Just let him go afterward.
They must be looking for someone. They got an APB out, but if you got all this, then something really bad happened. Like,
He got pulled over by somebody who wasn't a Gary cop. That's not even a Gary cop.
and you don't have the right to stop if it's a police officer outside the city, from what I heard.
There's the sheriff.
Okay, there's a sheriff.
And there's a police car that pulled him over right there.
Oh, something's going on. Anybody wants to call in here and sound off? If you know something that I don't, 219-885-1371. There's cops from all over the county here, including county. Want to know. You sure it wasn't you they're looking for, Greg? And you got tinted windows and there's no plate. Oh, where? Well, you can't see it. They'll find enough reason to stop you. Oh, sir, I can't see your plate or your sticker. There you go. Indiana Department of Education labels Gary schools high risk to oversee federal funds. We've already have enough problems in Gary, don't we? And we just want to add more to it, don't we? You want to jump over? We just want to add more problems to it, don't we? I know that it was spoken about it in the Breakfast Club in the mornings. I know that people were calling very irate and were pointing fingers, and you're blaming here and you're blaming there and you're blaming charter schools. And really, is that who the blame should be geared to? The state's labeling of the Gary Community School Corporation as a high risk has been accepted by the district school board. The Munster Times report, the Gary School Board voted 4-3 Monday to accept the designation by the Indiana Department of Education. The move allows the state to oversee how the district's federal funds are spent. Gary Superintendent Cheryl Pruitt says her staff and the state agency will work collaboratively in guiding the district. School board member Nellie Moore, who objected to the designation, says the board should have appealed it and showed the state what the district is doing to make improvements. Gary Teachers Union President Joe Zimmerman says teachers need copy machines, support in discipline, acceptable physical environments, and basic supplies to implement curricula. Are we really heading into the right direction for the right reason? I mean, it's already bad enough that this is my opinion, that it could be hearsay as well, that we already mismanaged the funds that we're receiving. So, okay, let the Indiana State Department then, oversee the funds to make sure that they're not being overspent. Use the money for other things. Or is it political? Is our mayor going to get involved in this? Is it right for that to happen? I don't know. You tell me. I know that many Chicagoans with Chicago Public Schools, they're very unhappy that Rahm Emanuel is involved because they believe his heart is not in that for our youth, for our children. Could that be the same thing here in Gary? I don't know. But I want to bring a school board. So I'm going to plan on that. My plan was to bring them here today, but you got split votes. Some said yes in favor, some were against. I'm all for the challenge because you guys know E.V.E. Bring it on. But it's not about a school board member. It's not about the superintendent. It's not about a teacher. It's not about a mayor. It should all be about our children. That's where the bottom line lies, or at least it should. Because at the end of the day, whatever you, politician, you, school board member, or you, teacher, decide to do, it will affect the student, the child. And ultimately, the parent has the decision where to send the child. In some cases, you would say, thank goodness for vouchers. Because it's a screwed up system anyway, right? I am a parent and I have the right to choose where I take my child to. I went to parochial high school, but I'm okay with where the kids are going. Okay, I swear something's going on in GI here today. Sorry to interrupt my own show, but they're about to create an accident here in Gary, right on 5th and Broadway. Now we got Gary cops flying down north on Broadway, south on Broadway, 5th and Broadway. If anyone is out there listening to Sound Off with E.V.E., call in 219-885-1371. What's going on out there? We got cops from all over the county, not just Gary cops. So do they have an APB on somebody? Did someone commit a murder and he's out on the loose? Out on the run? It has to be very cautious because police officers on chases also cause accidents and deaths. All right, we have a caller. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air here with E.V.E.
Hello. I just heard you indicate something about the officers who are patrolling in the city of Gary.
Yes.
My understanding is they've been invited here by Gary Police Department, and if you will look at their badge, they have authority in the state of Indiana. They have arrest authority in the state of Indiana.
Because I'm looking at the cop cards, and they're all different.
It may be dangerous to tell people they shouldn't pull over, because a police car in the state of Indiana, if that person has authority in the state of Indiana, if they're invited into a jurisdiction, they can patrol in that jurisdiction.
So we need to let our public aware of this as well, because there was an incident.
No, I don't think you understood what I'm saying.
Well, I understand what you're saying. They are to pull over.
Don't pull over.
They are to pull over. That's what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. The reason why.
And the other thing, when you mentioned about the mayor taking over the school board, maybe you've forgotten that the citizens of Gary chose to elect a school board, because the school board was appointed.
Correct.
And the citizens of Gary chose to elect a school board. I don't know that the mayor can arbitrarily decide to take over the schools. I think we need to get information and get our information correct, because there are some people who may believe exactly what they've heard, and that too is dangerous.
Which is why I have asked some of the school board members that they need to have an open forum to invite all the public to listen to what's really going on, because you got two sides that are not in agreement when ultimately who's being affected is our children at the end of the day.
I absolutely don't disagree with you on that end, but what I'm suggesting is when you cite that the mayor ought to take over.
Oh, I'm not saying that they should. I'm asking for opinions.
The mayor ought to get involved in the school.
I'm asking for opinions.
The citizens of Gary chose to elect a school board.
True.
And took the authority away from the mayor.
No, my question was, what do you think? Should a mayor take over or not? That's what the school board is supposed to do.
The mayor doesn't have the authority to take over. That's my point.
Well, there's a lot of things going on that maybe not everybody knows that needs to know. And I'm one to bring whatever is out there, but I need to bring the source to tell you what is really going on. People ought to know what.
I'm glad there's a forum in Gary to do that, but I wish that we would not cite misinformation, because a lot of people don't realize that the mayor does not have the authority to get involved with the schools.
Well, we just know that the Indiana Department is going to be overseeing the funds. So
they have the authority to do it.
True that. But they're at risk now, so that's why I wanted to bring some board members on, but it has to be right, and no one should be misinformed, because you got two sides, the ones that were for it and the ones that were against it. So
I just hope that nobody gets on citing misinformation.
Nope, everybody needs to read what's going on. Everybody needs to read what's going on. I'm not saying one way or another. I'm asking a question, because Rahm Emanuel takes over, and a lot of CPS people out there are very angry as to his decision.
The law in the state of Illinois does not necessarily mirror the law in the state of Indiana.
We understand that. I'm comparing. But thank you for calling. I appreciate you calling, and be safe out there, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, I would like to talk about what the young man just talked about, and he is correct. The mayor does not, at this point, have the authority.
At this point, you said it.
To take over the board. But I employ everybody in Gary, Indiana, to read Public Law 221, because I don't think the board members who supported the State Board of Education's decision truly comprehend Public Law 221. Because if they did, my point now is, I think they just put at risk many jobs and contracts in this city. And if we're trying to pull this community together, we have opened up Pandora's box to decisions made by people who are non-educated. We have non-educated people making choices for educators. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for sounding off. I appreciate you. You be safe out there. Thank you. You're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. Ultimately, the people that need to make the decisions in every school city, I'm not just pointing at Gary, I'm not just saying in Chicago, all the school cities ultimately, yes, should be your school board, but you should be in the right place at the right time, meaning if you have the credentials, if you have that passion, if you had that heart for students, for our youth, then you could possibly be a good candidate. But if you don't have the heart for children, if it's all about you or what's in it for you, and you're there because you're a political person or because you're there for a paycheck, then you shouldn't be there at all. And when you elect a board member, these are the things that you need to look at. When you elect any political figure or a person, a candidate, these are the things you need to look at. Are they the right person? Elections coming up. Are they the right people to govern for our youth? I don't like politics. Maybe you probably haven't found out, or if you haven't noticed, I don't talk a lot about politics. A lot of politics are politricks. Like some say politricks, I said a pile of tricks. Because some people go into politics because they got tricks. Okay? Some politicians are out there for themselves and not for our community. And the government is us. Those politicians have to work for us, not the other way around. We don't work for them. We voted them in, but now it's time for them. Now it's time for them to work for us. So come election time, pay attention to that, educate yourself and learn about that. I don't like politics. I don't like to, I love to see great representation for the Latinos, for the Hispanics, but there's so much corruption out there. It's sad. Clean up your act. Start with yourself before you think about running for something. That's all I'm saying. And you're welcome for a second call if you want to get on the air. 219-885-1371 is 51 minutes after the hour. And the young lady that had called about the Public Law 221, just going to briefly describe what that is for those of you that don't know what it is. I believe, okay, I have a caller. All right. Go ahead, caller. Sound off.
Well, hey there, Eve. How you doing?
Well, hey, Vic. Long time no hear.
Long time. I called Natalie about this one time, about 3 years ago or so. We call it poly tricks.
I know.
For polyester.
Right.
Polyester is like, anyway, it's fake. It's baloney.
So I call it a pile of tricks. Okay.
And so that's why I call it poly tricks.
Right. I said that. As if people say poly tricks, I call them pile of tricks because they got a pile of tricks under their
Well, it is a pile of tricks, but like I say, a poly tricks.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people won't even get involved with it because it's all, for example, been talking about manufacturing for 5 years now. Mm-hmm. And people respond to me like I'm crazy for even saying it.
That's okay.
When you really, what the real other bad guy is here? The people that want to privatize what the taxpayers pay for. That means the people that want to privatize the government, those are the people that are the real welfare people. Because they want to take tax dollars so they could get rich on them.
Well, they say the rich will be richer and the poor will stay poor. But we have to change that.
It's the United States of America, and whatever the taxpayers pay for belongs to American people.
Right.
Not to private industry.
Right. So we just have to keep educating ourselves, Vic, so that we can go above that poverty level. And we have to keep working at it, but we have to be in the front line and just keep fighting the fight. Thank you so much for sounding off here and sound off with E.V.E.
Hey, Eve, one quick thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about the whole fishing around here. A young man calls up every once in a while, talks about fishing, and he got a response the other day. He said, "What do you want, stuff for free?" I said, "Well, this is American resources, and people want to privatize those resources so they could charge you for them. And the lakes and rivers would not be stocked if people weren't making money on it."
Wow.
And the only reason why they're stocking lakes and streams is so that the people that sell sporting goods can make money.
All right. Well,
that's the biggest thing.
Everybody wants to make money, Vic, even on children, all right? Everybody wants to make money. Now, we as the parents, look, our children, there's a dollar sign for each child to go to school. Once we keep removing our students from that school has less funds, right?
Right.
So who are we going to blame? The parent or the charter school or the private school or the Catholic school or the Baptist school or whoever else you're using the voucher to go take your child to? Who do you blame?
Well, I blame it's me, the parent. I got responsibility. Look, if I don't teach it's like with this sexual harassment stuff. If I don't teach my kids to respect, their neighbors, respect people, then they're not. If you teach your kids that you're superior and you have a right to do whatever you want because you're who you are, well, that's pretty bigoted. And people are teaching their kids to be aggressive.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it. You're correct. I've seen how the parents talk. I've seen what they do with their children. It's like this. You expect them to be leaders. You expect them to be somebody better than you, then you better start changing with yourself first. Thank you, Vic. Continue to listen to Sound
great
Off.
one, Eve. Have a
You
good
too.
weekend.
You have a great weekend as well. It's 55 minutes after the hour, and well, my time is almost over. How about that? Let me just really quickly, but it's not over yet because you got Nuestra Comunidad coming up next at 6 o'clock. So you can still listen to me here. Juan is going to be broadcasting from, of course, the St. Patrick's Church, the fish fry that he's got a volunteer out there. So he'll be coming on after a few minutes. That Public Law 221, the young lady had called about, in Indiana's comprehensive accountability system for K-12 education, passed by the Indiana General Assembly in 1999 prior to the federal No Child Left Behind Act in 2001. The law aims to establish major educational reform and accountability statewide. To measure progress, PL 221 assigns Indiana schools both public and accredited non-public easy to understand and A through F letter grades. A for exemplary progress, B for commendable progress, C academic progress, D academic watch, F academic probation. Letter grades for high schools are calculated based upon performance, Algebra 1 and English 10 end-of-course assessments, student improvement, graduation rate, and college and career readiness, such as advanced placement, international baccalaureate, and industry certification exams, or the acquisition of college credits. Letter grades for elementary and middle schools are based upon English, language arts, and math, I-STEP performance improvement, growth, and participation. Well, we all know all of that has been changing. We all know that the Common Core is also going. Everything's changing. But what really needs to be changed is the mindset of everybody. That's what really needs to change. The mindset of everybody. Where is the best interest for our children, people? Can you answer that for me? Sound Off here on WLTH Radio. You're on the air. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi. I was just listening, and I heard you talking about you were talking about that law, and you mentioned No Child Left Behind. It was prior to No Child Left Behind.
According to
I
that.
was wondering, how do you feel about No Child Left Behind?
Well, first of all, from what I'm finding out, and it may be because of that, even though some teachers have said, well, I don't believe these children were just passed just to pass. Well, I asked, was it a biology teacher and an English teacher? I asked, wow, I'm shocked to hear that you have 9th graders, 10th graders that don't know how to read. Why do you think that is? Was that because of that No Child Left Behind? Or was that because the parents weren't dedicated enough to make sure that they're learning to read and make sure that the teachers are teaching them to learn to read? Or was it really that child no left behind thing, Yeah. I don't believe that a 19-year-old needs to fail 3 times. I believe in let's work after school, make sure that they're passing, make sure that they're getting tutors, make sure that they pass with the grade that is appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. I went through when I went through high school, I passed because of No Child Left Behind, and there's a lot of stuff that I wish that I redid. I'd take it over again so I could actually learn it, but it was just I really think that the No Child Left Behind needs to get out of there, and I don't know if Mr. Easton is listening right now or any of the other school board members, but if they are, I would encourage them to start a movement and get rid of No Child Left Behind so that
and you know what, because
students can actually learn.
That's great. That's a great point you're making. Whether there's a No Child Left Behind or not, there are parents, and I have heard telling the teachers, you need to flunk my child because he or she does not know how to read yet, does not know how to do these math problems. Why are you trying to pass my child when they don't know that level? Why?
Exactly.
So if we have parents that continue to do that,
I think it's because of No Child Left Behind.
Well, thank you for chiming in. I appreciate that. That's a great point. And continue to listen to Sound Off with E.V.E. Thank you, hon.
Will do.
Thank you. You're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. It's been great. It's been real. It's got to end right now, but we'll be right back. This is Nuestra Comunidad Noroeste de Indiana, our community, Northwest Indiana, starting up in just a few minutes. So we'll be right back. Continue to listen. Sound Off is sounding off for now, and I'll be back in just a few minutes here on WLTH Radio AM 1370.